Salutations, everybody. It is Commander Matty here, and today we're talking about Mass Effect. Ladies and gentlemen, I saw so many positive replies to our why you need to play Game X in 2022 for all the Bethesda game studios we did leading into Starfield's gameplay reveal. Now, I know we still have one more of those to go through, Skyrim, and we'll have that soon. But I wanted to experiment a little bit and do this with another RPG series, starting with Mass Effect. I know a lot of you love the Mass Effect videos that were on this channel, and whenever you have a chance to talk about BioWare, I take full advantage of it. However, it's becoming increasingly rare. And in a moment of transparency here, I just want to say that as a news channel, some days the news is just dead. I don't want to talk about the news because there's no news. So I want to have an option here where I can talk about somewhat older games that are accessible that I would recommend to you nowadays, and sort of do 2022 or 2023 and so on and so forth year of reviews of those older games, and just get people involved in these older games that maybe they missed, or remind them why they need to go back to them. So I just wanted to explain why I'm trying these types of videos. They've done really well, so we're going to continue to do them, trying some other series. With that, if you're new here and you're into re-reviews and you like Mass Effect, oh, do we talk about that series whenever we have a chance. So consider subscribing. With that, let's get the fun started. Now, normally in these videos, I have what I call the complete in-box experience with a lot of retro rebound energy. If you like these types of videos, go check out that channel I run. It's linked in the description down below. I think you really will enjoy it. However, the complete in-box experience here, a little bit lacking. Why is that? Well, normally we have the older game that you'd originally get year of, you pull it off the shelf in 2006 in the case of Mass Effect 1. What do you get? Here's the manual and all that stuff. But I felt like because the version of the game I'm recommending is this version, I'll explain why. Why would I show you all the older version that I don't even have? And this is where, as a game collector, you just want to be smart with how you spend your money. Do I need to take up shelf space to own an original copy of Mass Effect 1 for the 360 when I think the Legendary Edition is miles better? Honestly, no, I don't think so. So that's why I have these here. This is the steelbook that came with the Legendary cache. You can see both discs are here on the inside. And then this is the original packaging where you would have a 20% off code of something and then 2 disc slots here. So nothing crazy for the complete box experience. So I didn't want to use the overhead camera like we do in the retro rebound room and make a big to-do of it. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about why you should play Mass Effect 1 in 2022. You see, I was particularly motivated to make this video because anytime I see people talk about Mass Effect, it's, oh, the suicide mission in Mass Effect 2. Oh, and Mass Effect 3. All of the big choices you make. And I love those games. Y'all know I'm obsessed with Mass Effect. But I feel like somewhere deep down, I might be angry. I just feel like Mass Effect 1 does not get the flowers it deserves. It's like, oh, you started this thing that I loved in future entries. But nowadays, Mass Effect 1 is the best it's ever been. You want to talk about old school BioWare writing at its finest? There are moments peppered throughout Mass Effect 1 that I was stunned to rediscover matter so much in Mass Effect 3. It's what makes this trilogy so appealing, is that things that are introduced in the beginning aren't just there merely to exist and maybe be toyed with later in the series. There was an intent behind the writers to explore all these options, all these character arcs throughout an entire trilogy. So it really takes its time, flexes its muscles at the right points. But there are so many things that you see in Mass Effect 1 that appear in Mass Effect 3, and that's really hard to do. Look around the games industry. Take an honest, hard look. How many games let you carry over save file after save file after save file with your choices mattering? And better yet, games where you see something in the first entry still mattering in the case of Mass Effect 1 to Mass Effect 3 7 years later, and it's like consequential type stuff, and especially if you made choices like the Arachnoid Queen, that type of stuff, it's insane. So why I urge people to play Mass Effect 1 is not just because, hey, this is a great RPG, but if you're a real appreciator of video game writing, it's stunning what BioWare did. It's why I consider myself very much a student of the game. When I write video game stuff, I think of BioWare through and through. The thoroughness, what questions can you ask? What can you learn about the universe? What little seeds can we plant here that we can explore later? That's what old BioWare was all about. I may be a diehard KOTOR fan, but I think that Mass Effect 1 is some peak writing in video games. It's extremely impressive. But the reason why I'm suggesting, hey, this version here, Legendary Edition, not just because of accessibility, not because it's a remaster, but as many of you who follow this channel know, BioWare practically remade Mass Effect 1. It's not this poor shooter like it once was. If you told me prior to the release of the Legendary Edition you weren't interested in playing Mass Effect 1, I could kind of get it, because I know not everyone is like me and is a storytelling junkie and loves choice and consequence so much it can literally override at times piss poor gameplay. And I wouldn't say Mass Effect 1 would qualify in its original state as piss poor, but it didn't feel great to play. But now with Mass Effect 1 and Legendary Edition, I feel like if gameplay was holding you back, there's no longer any excuse, because it feels good to play. Now, does it feel like the true action third-person shooter that Mass Effect 3 is? No, but they carry a lot of elements backwards, and it certainly feels way better to play. The powers feel better, the shooting, the taking cover, even the Mako all feel better. Not just in comparison, but standing on their own, they feel really good to play. And that's why I just don't get how many people I saw who love Mass Effect 2 and 3, and I do too, say, I'm just gonna start with that and move in. I feel like you're trimming out a part of a very unique BioWare experience, kind of going back to what I originally started with here, is the ability to start with your Shepard in Mass Effect 1, and then go into Mass Effect 2, and then go into Mass Effect 3. The reason I urge people so hard is also Mass Effect 1 isn't that long of a game. We're talking a little over 20 hours. And I know many of you have limited time, but if you even want to break that up into a couple of weekends, you could do that and beat it within the month. Like, it's not that long compared to today's day and age where you have games that are 80 to 100 hours regularly, and it's ridiculous. Mass Effect 1 is also one of my favorite RPGs, just like many old school BioWare RPGs, because I feel like their design philosophy is so sorely missed in today's day and age with gaming. 20 to 30 hours, highly replayable. Instead of making a do everything 80-hour game, BioWare creates avenues and says, hey, you can play this 20-hour RPG and you can be done with it, or you could play this 20-hour RPG 4 times in 4 different ways and get 80 hours out of it like you did with your big open world game. To me, that latter part is much more appealing as a gamer, because I can choose to be done with the experience and walk, or I can replay it and get more out of it if I so desire. And I've already seen it through once, so I can stop in the middle of that and not feel too bad about it. To me, that's the beauty of RPGs, is re-exploring them. So if you have played it before, and maybe you skipped out on Legendary Edition, I think now is a great time for a replay. It's certainly been long enough where you could go and find new things. It's also been long enough where it's time to refresh, right? You've had time away from it. It's been over a year. You're able to hop back into it and go, all right, let's see what we got here now with Mass Effect Legendary Edition. Let's see what Mass Effect 1 is holding away from me. And that rediscovery of new story moments, new choices you can make, new companion interactions is great. Speaking of choices, I know a lot of people talk about the ending of Mass Effect 3, again, the suicide mission in 2, but I feel like the most iconic moment people refer to in Mass Effect 1 is punching the news reporter. That's the Paragon renegade decision for many people. But I don't see many folks talking about, I don't want to spoil, of course. The goal here is just to convince you to give it a replay if you already have played it, but also for those who haven't played it, just the option of not knowing anything and going in blind. But we'll just say the choice between Kaidan and Ashley. I think, to me, that's one of the best decisions in the game, because these two are so morally different. And again, it's one of those key choices that come Mass Effect 3, you're like, oh, okay, this mattered a lot. So I think of that moment there as like one of the best choices Mass Effect has to offer, but I feel like no one talks about it because one of the characters, if not both these characters, are easily heavily disliked. So I know it can make it where people don't care much, but I get it, because for me, there was a lot of beef I got about my thoughts on Kaidan, but I think personally that both these characters, by the end of their respective arcs, are at least decently developed, and it makes that choice when you know what's going to happen in 3 all the more impactful. So to me, I just feel like BioWare with Mass Effect 1 at times gets the short end of the stick. Another reason people don't like Mass Effect 1, the Mako, right? Driving around these desolate planets. I'll say this right now, Starfield fans, you want a taste of what Starfield's going to be like? I'm warning you now. I'm warning you now again. There's going to be planets that are empty, and you should play Mass Effect 1. If you want a feeling of getting into your rover, riding around a planet that's got not much to do, just things to discover, like a desolate research base, literally Mass Effect 1. Literally Mass Effect 1 to a T. Just finding random planets, landing on them, driving around, ship combat, the whole 9 yards. Mass Effect 1. It's why I never got the No Man's Sky comparisons beyond the mining laser. And I'm telling you right now, if you are interested in Starfield, just give Mass Effect 1 a look for that reason alone, so you can gauge the expectations a little bit. It may help in your hype or taking it down a level. Anyway, that's another reason people don't really get into it, is because the Mako originally in the 360 and PS3 generation controlled pretty terribly. Now, no longer an issue, feels much better. So I feel like BioWare had arguably the best response to a product that got flawed over time. Like, it was already amazing when it came out for all it did, but when you look at it now, if you were to play the old version, it does have its jank, if you will. But they managed to just rip out the problems by the roots here in Mass Effect 1 with the Legendary Edition and make a much more modern, better feeling product. Of course, it looks great. That's the other thing. This is a very good looking remastered package. I would argue that it's pretty much a remake at this point. But for me, Mass Effect 1 is just a timeless RPG that I feel not enough people give their love to. We're always talking about Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3, but to me, you know, these are all role-playing games. So like Mass Effect 1, it was the role-playing game of the trilogy. And what happened was, as it got progressively more action-focused, there were still choices, especially Mass Effect 2 having some of the most iconic choices. But I think when you account for stat allocation, character builds, weapons, character arc explorations based off like their side quests, that type of stuff, I feel like Mass Effect 1 was the biggest RPG of the 3. That's just my 2 cents on it. I just want to make a video really celebrating what is a wonderful set of games, but talking really about the first one. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I leave it in your hands. Do you agree with my thoughts on Mass Effect 1? Where do you stand with this series? Fire away. Other than that, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.